So my talk this morning is about what it's like to be a new Zen teacher. Um, as some of you know, uh, Rochiel came and did a precept ceremony for us on December 17th of last year, and announced apropos of nothing, with no hints to me that I was now a Zen teacher. And he suggested I take this talk as a time to sort of reflect on what I've been learning and what I've been going through as a result of this transformation. And so that's what you're going to get today. And I have I have 2 pages of bullet points, and I probably only need 6, and I'm not going to look at them very much, but I feel good knowing that they're there. If I run dry, I've got a wall of text I can dive into, to the left of you on the screen. So, I guess where to start is with that sense of profound not knowing what had just happened to me when I was made a teacher, because I didn't expect it. I didn't have a whole lot of narrative about it that I necessarily had to shake off in order to do the job. Um, but I did find that it was a good bit of like floundering and sort of feeling my way in the dark forward into this new thing. And you know, Al pointed out a number of times that I was already teaching. I was already doing this work here in Louisville, and you can say hello today to my uh, my Open Minds in Louisville people who are here. We have Diana Conchin and Carol Rikichi and Lisa Shise. And Louis Cato, our feline Sangha member, is sleeping off to my right, but he's here too. And I appreciate y'all showing up to keep me real and keep me honest, and also to get back to me later about what I should have said and didn't say, because I want that. So thank you. Um, One of the first things that popped out of me, out at me, and popped out of me, actually both, was that in being made a new teacher, this happened in front of my whole sangha. And so, I rolled into the same kinds of conversations and Dharma discussions after that happened to me, but all of a sudden they were landing differently. And the metaphor that came was, it was like Al had strapped a bullhorn to my face that I myself could not see or hear, but based on the expressions of the people I was talking to, they were hearing it and they were seeing it. Everything I was saying in all of our Dharma discussions was coming across. It was louder, and some of it really needed to be adjusted. For example, I used to use the idiom, if you want my blessing. So if I was in a friendly conversation with somebody, and it sort of had gone into advice giving territory, I usually always try to bracket that. I don't give unsolicited advice to people as a general rule. So if they are advice seeking, if I'm about to give advice, or to say, yeah, I think this course of action you're planning is good, I'll say, well, if you want my blessing, you've got it, for what it's worth. Well, that idiom rolled out of my mouth after I was made a teacher, and wow, did that not work anymore. That was really inappropriate, because it is, whatever this Zen teaching thing is about. It's not about dispensing permission or blessing for people to do things. And it was always just a friendly idiom anyway, but it was a little language habit that abruptly like backfired. And I think I said it to Diana, and she kind of looked at me, and I kind of realized what had just fallen out of my mouth. I'm like, can we roll that back? That really does not work. That thing where I said, if you want my blessing, you've got it. Can we just say I didn't say that? Instead, what I meant was this. That happened a few times in different ways, but that was the one that was most memorable. In general, I just felt like suddenly I'd gotten louder. And when I practiced with that, when I looked at that, I realized, I had had this fight all my life, sort of to be heard, particularly as a woman. in Kentucky and in some of the other more traditional, slightly more authoritarian cultures I've lived in, but definitely in Kentucky, there's been this fight to be heard, to have my competence and expertise recognized. And when Al recognized it in front of my whole sangha, that changed in a way. And what it meant is I don't have to fight so hard, but it also meant that when I was speaking in sort of my normal register, it was a little too loud. So I got to learn to dial it back, and I really enjoy um, talking to people and having Dharma conversations in the more gentle register that I can now sort of take up and embrace because I'm speaking from the student seat. That's been the teacher seat in that regard has been a very gentle, supportive thing for me. So there's that. Um, there's also the thing where in moving into a position of authority within a community, it can bring up a lot of ideas about how to be an authority figure. And ideas that never came up for me the whole time I was in the student seat. It was just content that I had never really had a reason to examine or look at. And all of a sudden, it's like these tapes were playing about how I was supposed to be with people, how I was supposed to handle situations. What does a proper teacher look like, sound like? Um, and almost none of that stuff was useful, but it all had to be gone through to be worked through piecemeal. Um, I yes, I try to drop everything and be with the people I'm with the goal of us all getting free in the moment. It's helpful to know what other people's expectations of me are, because those are things that we're going to have to negotiate together in our work. Um, but there was also this piece of having to look at my own expectations of myself. Like, now that I'm a teacher, it's going to be this, that, or the other thing. And I, my feeling is Zen teaching is really special. For starters, it's an incredibly labor intensive, person to person kind of teaching. It doesn't scale well, in my opinion. While the Dharma study aspects of what we do may scale somewhat, I can imagine, for example, running a Dharma study class with a dozen people in it, and being able to give each person's written work time and attention, and give them some feedback, um, and really having capacity for that. Um, I think most of what we do as Zen teachers, it's really just person to person. So it's not me being a teacher and somebody being a student, except that it is. But it's me as a person, talking to Diana or Carol or Lisa or my other uh, open minds and Louisville person has joined us. Stephen Nenmo. He's the square with the books. Um, I'm checking my notes to see what else. Okay, this point of if I strongly imagine I'm a Zen teacher and you're a Zen student, and therefore our reactions to each other, our interaction has to pattern a certain way. There's a way in which that's a precepts violation, because I'm basically murderizing the person I am and the person you are in the moment. Um, I'm really not showing up for either of us as we actually are, and um, in a way, it's about getting more lost, going deeper into the weeds, in interacting with people. It's really being there and feeling everything. I did a fair amount of peer counseling kind of stuff in my past, and there was always this notion that when you show up to be there for somebody else, particularly as a peer counselor, as a counselor, you bracket your own stuff, you set it aside. You aren't for that time you're in that role, you're not, you're really going to try to box up your own mess and set it aside so that you can be there in a sort of in a very pure way for the person that you're trying to help. I don't think Zen teaching really works like that. Or else maybe it's just an opportunity to not have it work like that. It's instead all of my stuff is with me, and it's my job to practice with it and to practice with the other person and all the stuff they're bringing into the room. Um, in other words, it's entirely sort of a 180 from how I was trained um, to be with people in a helping role. So, for what that's worth, there it is. Um, there's there's an ongoing discernment process for me around how to work with student resistance and student pushback when it comes up. And I mean, I teach Dogen. I love Dogen. Um, if it's in my power to make you love Dogen, I will make that happen. I mean, that let me just put that out there. I really I love other Zen teachers from our tradition too. I mean, it's not just Dogen that I love, and Dogen's difficult. I mean, he really pokes at us. He challenges. He's confusing. He's overwhelming. My academic background is in classics, and so I sort of came to Dogen with this whole intellectual training about how to run down really obscure bits of the text, looking in particular at the technologies that were available at the time of the author's writing. Um, I love doing all that, and if I can help it, and you're my student, you'll end up loving it too. But maybe not. Maybe not. What if it's just frustrating? What if it's just awful? What if you're just confused and it's like another week of not knowing what Dogen is saying to me? And in a way, my wisdom at the moment about working with student pushback and resistance is that it's pretty much exactly like my own. Back off a little from the content, from the words that people use in describing their resistance or their frustration, and instead take up an investigation into the quality of it. Is it fearful? Is it frantic? Is it activated? Is it triggered? Is it angry? Is it uh, amused or engaged but cautious? Is it, I I I feel like I can help better when I go less into intellectual problem solving mode with whatever words people give me, and I'm more attentive to the bigger picture of that all of their experience that I can partake in the conversation, plus my own too. Um, I seem to respond better to student struggles. Let's call them struggles. Uh, when I listen to what they have to say or what they don't like about Dogen or what's frustrating or confusing or off-putting or whatever, but I'm more interested in the quality of their emotional experience at the time. That's actually where I'll probably find my way into being able to say or do or model something that's actually helpful for them at that moment of the process. Let's see, what else has come up? Let me check my time too. I got more time, a little bit. I wanted to leave a bunch of time for question and answer because it just seemed to suit the nature of this particular talk to um, set that uh, as a goal. One thing I was thinking this morning is, the idiom, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Be a Zen teacher, don't be oil. In other words, depending on people's karma and what ideas they bring to the experience of being a Zen student or being a student in general, some people will die on their cushion and never even squeak, and other people will very readily step up and squeak, 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 squeak. And if I'm going to teach the whole sangha, um, I a little bit of rigor, a little bit of discipline on my part about really thinking through everyone present and what do they need and where are they at. Yes, particularly the quiet ones, um, the ones who would never make waves, um, and asking myself to really balance my attention. Um, I I I hope in this way to support us all in training together, rather than allowing my teaching to be increasingly focused on the needs of students who just happen to be very good at asking for what they need. So we'll see how that goes. I'll know better in a year, but so far, to the extent that I remember every week to do that, to go over all the students I'm working with in my head, where they're at, what they need. It's helpful. This is a practice that's actually recommended that you do on a nightly basis by Dogen in his instructions for a cook. And so I came across this recommendation in the context of our Dharma study, and I took it up, for use as a teacher, and it's just amazingly helpful. What else have we got? Suffering is a delicate, private, personal business, and I don't think I can be too mindful of that, because I think I can be comfortable with um, engaging with people and hearing about their suffering, and sort of being with that. That doesn't mean other people are going to be comfortable. I need to stay aware that not everybody does this in this way all the time, to the point that it feels normal. Probably one of the first Zen ceremony Al ever taught me to learn to do was to chant the Heart Sutra together with Sangha members when they'd had a loss, a death in the family, a friend, whatever. We've now needed to do this 4 times, um, in the since I began Open Mind Zen Louisville, and I'm getting pretty comfortable with the chanting and the playing of the fish drum and keeping the timing consistent, and doing all that. Um, and it's probably been the most serious and the most important, in a way, task that I've taken up as a teacher, is to offer this to people in moments of deep grief. Um, what else? I'm looking at my bullet points to see what I'm going to be really mad if I didn't tell you all about. Um, Particular interests of mine, and I'll just mention them quickly, are neurodiversity and how and ability and disability, and how to shape the Zen forms to make them really uh, more than accommodate and more than tolerate students, genuinely accommodate their liberation. I mean, that is a big thing I've done and been working on with the help of my students here in Louisville. So that's something I love to talk about. Um, Another thing I love to talk about and work on is taking refuge in Sangha as a place to work on sort of our toxic individualism. And my my interpretations of our traditional practices together, like Kinhin, have been really impacted by Resmaa Menakem's book, My Grandmother's Hands, a trauma-informed approach to Zen. In that book, he takes up a number of practices from his own childhood church experience, and just highlights how they are healing. They allow people to come together in a group and co-regulate their emotions, to be together in a way that actually um, allows people to relax and settle in the company of other people, even people that they don't know. And more and more, I'm feeling this is a central thing that Zen can really offer. Okay, our cultural practices that we work with in a Zendo are different than those in a black church, a black Christian church in the United States of America, but they're there. If you look at our Zen practices through that lens, you will find them. So, for example, when we do kinhin together, uh, I ask people to make subtle adjustments in their pace and in their direction, exactly by using their peripheral vision in the soft way to notice how other students are moving. So it's not about asking us all to march in lockstep, but to sort of absorb the feel and the pace at which everybody in the room is moving and to adjust our bodies to that. So it's like a flock of birds or a school of fish. You have each bird or each fish making tiny little adjustments in how they move in order to be part of this larger whole. And kinhin, when we all get up and walk together, is a chance to do that. And this kind of emotional co-regulation that we do when we intentionally make a space uh, to connect to other people in this nonviolent way, it can be very healing. It can also be an answer to the problem of, when people feel very exhausted around being in groups of people, like they just want to go home and hide after they've done a day of retreat. It may be that they are feeling the need to produce a self that is very guarded and not terribly honest to their actual lived experience all day. So, of course, they're exhausted at the end of the day. But in taking refuge in Sangha, we can gently dismantle that and build capacity about how to relax and be who we really are in a group of people, so that um, we don't need to fear being with people. Instead, we look forward to it because we know it's going to be a source of renewal and support. And this is true even if we're introverts, I believe, personally.